Today's guest is someone you're going to want to take a notebook out for. I'm joined by Jacinta Devlin, the founder and CEO of Devlin Consulting. She's a digital marketing and business growth expert who spent the past 15 years helping women build bold, profitable businesses without burning out in the process. Jacinta's work sits at the intersection of clear brand positioning, smart systems that actually convert, and marketing that nurtures instead of drains. Whether she's helping a founder go from idea to income or guiding an established entrepreneur through a pivot, she's helped thousands of women create businesses that not only sell, but feel aligned and sustainable. She's also built a community of over 20,000 engaged women business owners, and today she's here to share practical, no-fluff strategies for growing with clarity, confidence, and balance. So if you're tired of overwhelm, craving momentum, and really ready to scale, this episode is for you. Let's just dive in with Jacinta Devlin. So hello, Jacinta, and welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here on Branding with Bex. I think my audience is really going to enjoy learning more from you. So you've spent the last 15 years helping women build bold, profitable brands without burning out. Can you tell us a little bit more about the story behind Devlin Consulting and what first pulled you into this work in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to make a long story short, we'll dive in. I would say the easiest way is I started my career actually in direct sales. When I was in college, I was working as a waitress and I got invited to a jewelry party. And so that's really where I started my entrepreneurship journey. From there, I ended up being in three different direct sales companies
Okay.
and grew multi-million dollar teams. I ended up moving into the national director of sales and training at one company. And then from there, I just realized that there were women from all over, all sorts of different companies and industries who were finding me and seeking me out and asking me, how did you have this success on, Facebook or on Instagram, or how did you get these sales? And so it kind of just naturally and organically happened that me and one of my best friends were like, we really should do something with this. And so that's how I started Devlin Consulting. So I moved from working for just one or two or three big companies into being able to work for many women that worked in many different industries and helping women grow their businesses and not having to be tied down to just one company.
Wow, that is awesome. And thank you for sharing all that insight. I think for women, it can be hard to jump into sales as it seems a little intimidating for a lot of women. And I think if you're someone that's, very entrepreneurial, coming up with maybe the creative business aspect of things, and then realizing that you also have to promote and market and sell the business as well, can be a little bit of a hurdle. Something I've noticed is that you're really big on clear brand positioning. So do you see any mistakes that founders are making, as they're trying to stand out or get their message out there?
I mean, I think we're all just trying in the beginning, right? I think every entrepreneur, every woman in business in the beginning, she's just trying. And I think that one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is doing it on their own. I
Mhm.
think a lot of times we have a great idea and we want to, put that into fruition. But like you said, I think a lot of women start businesses and don't realize I suddenly now have to not only have the great idea and be the person running the business, but now I have to be the marketer. I have to be the advertiser. I have to be in charge of PR while also doing the back end of the business and customer service. So I think a lot of women jump into business kind of thinking they'll just, bootstrap it and do it themselves. And it can get overwhelming because when you're starting a business, you are one person wearing 10, 20 different hats. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of times women get caught in this really vicious cycle where then they're overwhelmed, they're taking on so much, maybe they're floundering, not having the success that they wanted to have. And then they kind of turn inward and they feel like maybe I'm a failure, maybe this wasn't meant to be, instead of realizing that really what they need to do is turn outward and look for that help, that extra support that can actually help them align their business or set up a system or put them into the positioning or the branding that they want in order to actually get their business seen by the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think initially when we get really excited to start that business or to launch whatever it is, or even if you're a personal brand just looking to get your message out there more and do more content creation, it can be really exciting. And I also feel like, especially with someone that has like a very entrepreneurial mindset, you kind of want to oversee everything because it's kind of
Right?
hard to, it can be really hard to like relinquish the control and to take a step back. But I think bringing in those experts is so important and it makes everything so much more efficient, streamlines everything. And then you can really focus on what you actually enjoy doing in the business as well. And you don't feel like you have to do all the other stuff that's not as much fun to you. So focus on the things that are. So when someone's at the very beginning, they have a great idea, they're very passionate about it, but they have no real traction yet. What are some of the first systems or moves that they can focus on to get them to that consistent level of income?
I think one of the very first things is telling their story. I think most women brands, whether it's personal or your business brand, really are kind of missing the mark a little bit on telling the story. A lot of my clients that we have starting right now, that's one of the first things that we have them do is start their Instagram or TikTok, whatever it might be, and start with the behind the scenes and telling the story of, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm building this brand and building this business. Come along with me as I do this photo shoot or as we go pack these orders or whatever it might be that's relevant to your business. I think that's a really easy step. It doesn't always, I think a lot of times we're thinking, okay, we need to get all the photography, all the videography, everything perfect and done. And some clients that I work with have that budget, and great. If you have $30,000, right up front and you can pour into that, amazing. But a lot of women, when they're just getting started in business, they don't have that. And so I think the easiest way to start to build a community, build a following is really just starting to create buzz. And you can start to create that buzz really easily by just telling the story of what you're doing, taking people on that journey with you through social media. It's a really easy way to get people kind of hooked in. I think about there's this really cool account on Instagram, this girl who bought this house for like $10,000, this like abandoned shabby house. And
Well,
she turned it into this like pink, gorgeous Airbnb, like dream of hers. And she took us through the story of when she first bought this shoddy, $10,000 house and how she transformed it. And so when it was time for her to actually open her Airbnb and open up for bookings, she already had a flood of people ready to book who wanted to stay there. And she hadn't even done any type of what we would think of as traditional, marketing or advertising. She really was just telling the story. So I think that's an easy thing that every entrepreneur can put into their journey right now is if you're like, step one, what can I do? Just hop on and start telling your story. Take people behind the scenes, and that will get people really interested.
yeah, that's a great tip. I think often we want to kind of package the business in a nice, pretty bow and say, oh, it's out, it's ready, our product's here. But taking the audience with you and sharing like the pros, the cons, the ups, the downs, I think that goes a long way. And like you said, it helps you to create that audience. So that way, when you are ready to launch or whatever your business is, people already know the behind the scenes. They already feel like they know you a little bit. And then it feels like you're purchasing from a friend versus just a business that you don't really know much about. So that's a really great actionable tip. So if someone's looking to maybe grow their social media for like a personal brand situation, or maybe they just want more visibility and leads for their business, what's like one content or marketing move that they can maybe start to implement this week to help continue to grow that momentum online?
For sure. So, of course, like we just talked about that storytelling, but I think really the biggest challenge for most people in this department is just consistency,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're first getting started. I mean, there used to be a day back in social media where you could post like 2 or 3 times a week, and
Yeah.
maybe that would be good, right? You could get away
Right.
with that. There also used to be a time where the quality of your content could be a little so-so, and maybe you could get away with that. But since we are living in such a digital driven era right now, and there is, to be realistic, competition out there.
Mhm.
There is somebody doing what you're doing for the majority of the time. There's other women or other people or businesses who have that same model. And so
Right.
I think one of the easiest ways, again, if someone's listening and they're like, what's an actionable thing that I can do right away? It's consistency, setting yourself even a really simple posting plan, saying, these are the 5 main pillars that I want to talk about my business, the things that are important, the things that I think will attract people, and set yourself an easy schedule. Monday, I'm going to talk about our newest drop. Tuesdays, I'm going to talk about our tried and true favorite. Wednesdays, I'm going to show a behind the scenes of how we make the product or whatever it might be. I think that first step of just getting consistent, getting yourself a set plan really helps a lot of entrepreneurs because, again, not everyone starts a business thinking that they're going to become a marketer and also the
Right.
sales. And so where can we start with step one? Let's just start first with making a plan and being consistent.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Also, what's really helpful is for creators or for even entrepreneurs that are maybe new to this to kind of set up some time to time batch their content. So you could take like time to record maybe an hour long video of yourself talking and then chop up that content to share throughout the week. So it doesn't have to be like you have to sit down every single day and come up with something to talk about. Because I know that can be very overwhelming at the start too.
100%. I agree. We talk about that with our clients all the time too, right? Which is we always call it income generating activities, right? Like,
Mhm.
what can we set on the calendar that will help us actually generate income? And if you're trying to grow your business online, then creating content is going to be part of that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk a lot about scaling without chaos. What does sustainable growth actually look like in practice? And are there any boundaries or systems that make the biggest difference for you or your clients?
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing that most entrepreneurs are lacking, especially as they start to scale and grow, is systems that have automation built in. And
Mhm.
so that's something when I'm working with my clients who are maybe they've already launched their business, they're a year in, maybe they're already doing 100,000 in sales, whatever it might be, and they're burnt out. They're like, they're still wearing all of the hats, right? And so they're like, we need some type of automation or some type of system, some type of lead flow that makes sense. And I think for most people in today's digital marketplace, that's going to be, social media is going to bring the leads in. And then what are you doing with those leads? Are they getting nurtured into an email, newsletter, an email marketing system? Are they getting followed up with a phone call or a text message? Is there a drip campaign attached to that? And then how are we putting all of these tools together so that way they can automate? So that way, when we do bring a lead in, they're systematically going through your sales funnel, ideally purchasing your product or service at the end without you having to actually physically touch all of those points. So I think automation is probably one of the biggest things that I help a lot of seasoned entrepreneurs with, or entrepreneurs that are ready to scale. What systems that we can put in place to kind of give you back some more of that time and also make that really seamless for your client or customer, right? Because we live in this now era. When somebody signs up for something, whether it's your physical product or a digital product, they want that now. And so how can we set up that system in your business so that way everything's really streamlined and automated? When your customer wants to purchase, boom, they instantly have that product as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Something that just as a consumer, if there's an email that I'm signing up for to maybe download a PDF or either even to get like a promo code if I'm online shopping, you want it like right away. You really want it instant in your mailbox.
Yeah.
So when it takes time to kind of hear back from the company, sometimes we've closed the tab or we've moved on or we're not as engaged anymore. So I think that's a really great point about making sure that, it's consistent and that people are actually getting what you'd like to deliver in a very timely manner. Any tips or tricks or pros or cons to maybe using AI, things you recommend people use them for, or maybe some things that you say maybe if this would be better coming directly from an actual person?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, AI is huge in the business world. I mean, I think everyone realizes it's changing our lives, it's changing the world,
Right.
period, not just for business, right? I think right now it's still in a place where people are still looking for help from an actual expert, from someone who's, walked the walk and talked the talk and has some experience in this. I think there's so many AIs out there right now that do so many different things that it can be really overwhelming. I hear that from my clients sometimes. They're like, oh, I want to use AI. And it can be so overwhelming because there's so many different things. And now you want to automate your systems, but it's like, okay, we've got 10 different programs that we're trying to piecemeal and band-aid together to automate maybe this one thing. And
Mhm.
so my general rule for my clients is, AI is a part of life now. And I always share with everybody, and including in my business, I think in all of our businesses, we use it for foundational purposes, right?
Mhm.
So maybe if you're going to use it to help you brainstorm or give you ideas or things like that, I never, suggest to my clients, we never want to just like copy and paste
Right.
and take whatever AI or chat GPT is giving us. So I think using it where it can help, absolutely for automations. I think the word AI too, artificial intelligence, that really we have been using AI in a smaller capacity for a really long time. If you
Mhm.
think about even email marketing, right? The fact that someone can sign up for your lead list and they automatic, that's artificial intelligence that's been working behind the scenes to do that already for years. So we've been using
Right.
AI for a really long time. I think it's just now become so easily accessible and popular. So I
Mhm.
think it's absolutely great for certain things like automating, your email marketing newsletters or Instagram DM messages so you can instantly respond to potential clients or customers, or if you've got a chat bot on your website, some of those things that provide instant support. But I think for a lot of the foundational things, it's important to still have a human do it. I had a client who came to me and she had this like AI built website, but all these things were written wrong on it and stuff was misspelled and the coloring was wrong. And we had to have a real person go in, edit all of those things. So I think one day maybe it's going to be this magic button that we all want. But I think for right now, it's still in kind of that testing phase where we use it for foundational and for ideas that we need. But I still think there's so much power in the human creativity and the human touch that we really need in order to make a business successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to use it for streamlining and not allowing it to kind of take over when it comes to the creative aspect of marketing. People are really smart online and they're really catching on to what's AI and what's not. And I think right now, one like a stressor for a lot of consumers is maybe not speaking to a person. So if they have a question about something, they kind of just want someone to give them the real direct answer instead of kind of sending them all over the place through like an AI bot. Right now, I think at one point we saw people using it for a lot of the content creation, but it actually seems like it's shifting back now, where too often people were going to AI or ChatGPT to kind of write a lot of stuff for them or to come up with content for them. And now people feel like their own personal tone was really lost in that process. So I think we're seeing that kind of shift back too. I know sometimes when you ask it questions, it sounds great because it does tell you what you want to hear, but then afterwards taking a step back, I'm like, oh, well, that actually doesn't come out the way I want it to. Like, that's not exactly how I wanted to say. You have to kind of go through and edit it yourself anyway. So great tool, but it's interesting to see how it evolves. I think interviewing a lot of different entrepreneurs and content creators on this podcast, there's been a lot of different reviews of AI and like whether they're really using it or, kind of staying away from it. But I would say the overall theme is to use it as a tool, but to not allow it to kind of take over in your business. So for the woman who's listening right now that may feel stuck or overwhelmed or maybe scared to go bigger with their business or with their personal brand, what's one mindset shift and one practical step that she can take this week to move her business forward?
For sure. I think it really does go a lot back to that support. I think women in general are used to running the household, running the children, running the schedule, and in some cases also working, running their business or working a full-time job. And women tend to have this feeling of like, we have to take it all on. We've got to do it all ourselves. And I think so often just getting a second set of eyes, getting somebody who has that knowledge and that expertise to take a look. Sometimes you can be spinning your wheels over a problem for months, years, depending on your business. And you can't just seem to figure out what's that thing that clicks. And sometimes you can have someone come in and take a look and say, you know what, we could change this one thing or change these two or three things, and that's going to make a difference for us. So I would say I'll almost answer this in two parts because I know you said one. I think support is big, but I think the other thing is do not be afraid to try and fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, as women, we want to do so well the first time on everything that we do. We want things, lots of us are, type A, we want to be, especially in our businesses, we want everything to go great. And a lot of times women can really deal with that fear of failure. And I think that's one of the biggest things is being able to accept failure is going to happen, right? We hear all of these crazy stories, what the KFC recipe was, he tried to sell it 100 times before he did. PayPal, I think he had 9 businesses go bankrupt before PayPal became what it is. And so being willing also to try something and fail. Try something. If it doesn't work, you get out of it quick, you try the next thing. If that doesn't work, you get out of it quick, you try the next thing. So often women want the answer to just be, okay, great, that was it, and that magic button. And as entrepreneurs, I think we have to accept that we've got to try things and see if they're going to work. Because something that might work for me in my business might not work for you in your business, but you might be having great success with something. When I try to implement in my business model, it doesn't work as well. So I think it's really twofold. One, being willing to go out and get support and have somebody else take a look at that business from a fresh set of eyes and see where strategically we can help you. And two, be willing to try those new things. And if they don't work, that's okay. We're going to move on to the next thing. Sometimes we've got to try 3 or 4 or 5 things before something sticks. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean your business idea is bad. It doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. It means we have to try different things until we get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. I think often too, especially with social media or just being in the online space, it's so easy to look around and be like, well, their business took off really well, or their page is blowing up and they're getting all this engagement. And it's so important to kind of stay in your own lane. And I love how you mentioned pivoting. Like there's nothing wrong with trying something. And if it doesn't work, moving on to something else. You don't have to keep keep at the same business or the same idea that you initially had. Like, I think we all have so many different interests and passions, and it's important to really tap into those. And if maybe one thing stays as a hobby and it doesn't turn into a business, and maybe we focus on something else. But that trial and error, I think, is a really great tip, because it's important to try things out and give yourself that time to do it, but don't be afraid to pivot, and to just putting yourself out there online, I think, is a huge, amazing accomplishment within itself. So I give a lot of women a lot of credit for doing that and having the confidence to go for it. So as we wrap up this episode, I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that you have so many great freebies on your website. So if anybody's listening, they can go ahead and check them out. I'll add your link in the show notes. But if anybody's looking to follow along with you on social media, LinkedIn, or your website, if you don't mind just adding that here, and I'll add the clickable links below.
Absolutely. Yeah, really easy. It's jacintadevlin.com. And so I know you'll add those links. I won't spell it for everybody, but I'm branded on everything the same exact way. And yeah, I offer tons of free resources. And, of course, in my business model, I help women grow in different ways. But I think it's important to be able to, share what you can to help other women grow. And so I absolutely would encourage anyone to hop on there, grab those free resources. If they want to book a free 15-minute call with me and find out a little bit more about working with me, or how I might be able to come in with those strategic set of eyes on their business, I would absolutely love to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jacinta. It was so nice speaking with you today. It's going to really enjoy it and learn so much from you. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to sharing this one.
Thank you.